Hey there, I'm Adrienne. Welcome back to Better Days Start Today. I want to start off with a little story, and there's a reason for it. Have you ever noticed how perfection will sneak in and slow you down even when you have the intention not to allow that to happen? We all know the phrase, done is better than perfect. I know I have really tried to lean into, if something is 80% of what I would love it to be, then let that be enough. And yet, despite all of this, despite telling myself that perfection is going to be a non-issue, perfection is fake, it's not real, I'm not going to hold myself to that standard, I do find myself sometimes still wanting things to be a certain way. Now this leads to the story. I've been starting my mornings writing using my typewriter. It's a typewriter that I got in the 90s, and I totally forgot I had this thing until I went to my mom's house and cleaned out some stuff, and I found it. And I was so excited that she kept it. So I've been using it in the mornings to do some writing, mainly because it's a full sensory experience. I've got the noise from the keys, I've got the smell of the ink from the ribbon. I've been writing in low light, so that way I'm not hyper-focused on the words that are coming up in front of me. It's more, I'm just channeling what's in my head and getting it onto the page. So I've been loving this practice. It's been really fun. It's been a way to freshen up a practice that I do every day and have been doing every day for a long time. It makes me feel creative when I write. But this 90s typewriter reminded me that I still am holding myself to the standard of perfection sometimes, and I don't need to. So when I first started typing on it, first couple weeks I had it back at my house and I'm typing, I was a little bit slow and methodical because I knew if I made a mistake, I couldn't just backspace it like I would on a computer. There's no squiggly underline to let me know where I spelled something wrong. I don't have the eraser cartridge installed right now, so it's just the ink ribbon. So once I press the key, that's it. It is there. So I slowed down to account for that. And over time, as I've been using it, I've been speeding up, mistakes be damned. And the reason for that is because my intention of doing this writing is for me. It's a creative outlet for me. So why am I so worried about if something's spelled wrong or I hit the wrong key? It's irrelevant. This isn't meant to be a final product. If I want to share some of what is inside of this writing with the world, I then take that to the computer and I flesh out my thoughts. So this first iteration on the typewriter is really just a first draft. So why not just let it be a first draft? Why slow down and try to be careful about how I'm hitting the keys, how I'm doing it? Because, oh no, then there'll be a mistake on the piece of paper that nobody's ever going to see except me. It just kind of hit me that I'm slowing down and being methodical and using energy in a space where I don't need to. And really what I was doing is I was holding back. I was holding back because I was worried about making a mistake. But mistakes aren't a full stop. You can make a mistake and keep going. So I want to talk about this and run with the metaphor of writing and how that relates to life. So we're going to talk about three things. Perfectionism Paradox, and that's just basically how getting it right holds you back. We're going to talk about the first draft mindset and why experimentation frees you. And we're going to talk about what I'm going to call here the typing forward rule. See what I did there? Sticking with the typewriter theme. But it's about how to stop overthinking and just keep moving. To start off with the perfectionism paradox. Perfectionism, it tricks us into believing that we're being thoughtful and we're being methodical, when in reality, it's fear in a fancy outfit. We're trying to present ourselves in a certain way. We're trying to prove that we can get it all right. But mistakes, they're not proof of failure. They're proof of progress. You can't make a mistake if you're not in the game. But if you're in the game, it's inevitable that everything isn't going to go right. So if you're at a hard point in your life and you're making some big changes or some big changes found you, whether you asked for them or not, we can get in this area where we get stuck and we freeze up because we want whatever we do next to be the quote unquote right thing. But what if we just try some stuff? And if things don't turn out the way we intended, just look at that mistake as proof of progress. We're staying in the game, we're iterating. So this idea of aiming for flawlessness, we do that sometimes whether we're conscious of it or not. But what if instead of aiming for flawlessness, we're aiming for fluency? Try to say that 3 times fast. When I stopped hesitating at the typewriter and I was like, well, this is a first draft for my eyes only, I'm just going to type away, I sped up. I didn't censor myself. I didn't slow myself down. I just let the words go from my head onto the page. And I built momentum because momentum comes from action, not waiting until you feel ready. So if you can drop that hesitation, you make space for momentum once you get into action. So I want you to consider, what is one thing that you have been putting off because you don't think you're ready yet? Just consider it. I want to change gears to the first draft mindset and the idea of experimentation being freeing. Life, it's not this final draft, like this final destination of when I arrive here, my life is complete. As humans, we're ever evolving. And sometimes that can get a little messy. That's just humanity. That is life. But if you can get into the mindset of it's a first draft, or if you think of things as an experiment, failure or mistakes stop feeling so personal. It's that idea of detaching from the outcome. It's difficult to do, of course, because we have standards, we want things to go a certain way, we have expectations, and of course we're disappointed when our expectations aren't met. But rather than treating something like the end-all be-all, treat it like an experiment. Much like my typewriter drafts, right? I type in the morning. Maybe there's some ideas there that I want to turn around and share. Maybe not. Maybe that was just for me. But some of those pages, they're just drafts, just some ideas. And some of those are the foundation for something more. And I'll polish them, I'll work on them, and I'll get them out to the world. But not everything is meant for that. This might sound like I'm comparing apples and oranges here, drafts on a typewriter versus life. But it's just a mindset shift of letting things be your first draft. Rather than thinking of this in full life context, because that might feel really big, try the idea of a rough draft day. And let this be a full day where your only goal is to create, start, or attempt something without editing yourself in real time. Just do and see what happens. I want you to think about one area of your life where you could lessen your grip and allow for more experimentation. Just one area. And this brings us to the typing forward rule. It's basically how to stop overthinking and keep moving. So the best way to avoid getting stuck in mistakes and failure is to keep your fingers moving, literally, figuratively. The idea is to just keep moving forward. Take the next action, regardless of how this action turned out. The only way to fail is to stop. Stop typing, stop trying, stop going after your goal. Everything before you stop trying is feedback. Failure along the way is feedback. That's it. So I have an idea of just creating a no backspace zone. Again, nod to the typewriter, no backspace zone for something in your life. Maybe it's for something creative like writing. Maybe it's speaking up in meetings, showing up online, whatever it is. Commit to no editing in real time. And this is kind of building on that experimentation mindset, that first draft mindset. We're getting into action and we're staying in action and we're going to see where that takes us. I want you to consider what would change for you if you trusted that you'll figure things out as you go. If you're at a difficult point in your life, maybe you just had a divorce, maybe there was a death that impacted you profoundly, maybe you lost your job or you just moved and you don't have community yet. You might be going through so many different types of transition if you're listening to this. But what if you just trusted that you'll figure things out as you go? What would change? Mistakes don't define our outcomes. Movement does. Staying in action does. Pressing forward. If you stop seeing your mistakes or your quote-unquote failures as roadblocks, as signs that you have to just stop and take a new path, which there's nothing wrong with taking a new path if that's in alignment, but if you're letting the mistake or the idea that you're failing at this be the thing that stops you, when you still want it more than anything, you're letting your mistakes define your outcomes. So maybe just see the mistakes as feedback, guideposts, maybe ones that you don't want to hit, but here we are, making mistakes. The thing is, if you don't allow these things to stop you, to freeze up, to stay stuck, and you try the next thing, you'll realize how quickly you can build momentum towards what's next, towards what it is that you want to create for yourself, for your life. You just have to be willing to keep going. So I want to know if any of this resonated with you, the perfectionism paradox, that first draft mindset, or the typing forward rule. I want to know if you're going to try any of these, if you've had any profound aha moments when considering some of the questions I asked. I would love to hear how this episode landed for you. So DM me on social media and let me know. If you haven't picked up my Reimagine Your Life guide, I would love for you to go and download it. There'll be a link in the show notes, which is just the episode description. This is a guide where you will use AI to help you explore possibilities that you may not have considered yet for yourself. It's a bit of an adventure and it may spark some ideas. It's almost like a creative undertaking with AI as your thinking partner. You got to grab this guide. I've been getting great feedback from people. So grab your copy, start it, and let me know if you enjoy any of the prompts or if you have any big takeaways from that. I would love to hear all about it. I hope you have an amazing week. Until next time, remember, your better days, they start today. Thanks so much for spending time with me on Better Days Start Today. If you loved this episode, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the podcast, and leave a review. It helps more people find this space and start creating their better days too. And hey, don't forget to sign up for my newsletter at adriancrowley.com. You'll get exclusive tips, tools, and access to complimentary events designed to support you every step of the way. Until next time, remember, your better days, they start today.